cholecystectomy in cholecystitis.
The treatment of acute pancreatitis is fluids, analgesics, and antibiotics. For cholecystitis is cholecystectomy, which is the condition that is remaining in which we can use ERCP as a therapeutic
Ascending
procedure.
cholangitis.
Ascending cholangitis or choledocholithiasis, stone in the bile duct. The problems or the diseases of the bile duct that are obstructing the bile duct can be solved by ERCP. And as its name indicates, primary sclerosing cholangitis, there is a sclerosis of the bile duct, so it can be diagnosed by ERCP. So in short, the problems of common bile duct can be diagnosed as well as treated with ERCP. The treatment in both conditions is same, ursodeoxycholic acid and cholestyramine. Both of them will decrease the bilirubin levels. So, prevention of primary biliary cirrhosis and primary sclerosing cholangitis is same. Pruritus with jaundice in a middle-aged female, you will suspect either primary biliary cirrhosis or primary sclerosing cholangitis, and you will diagnose it by antimitochondrial antibodies. And if the female has a history of ulcerative colitis, then it will be primary sclerosing cholangitis, and you will diagnose it by ERCP. The treatment for both of them is same, ursodeoxycholic acid and cholestyramine. What are the important differentials? Middle-aged female, with abnormal LFTs and secondary amenorrhea. Then what will be your diagnosis?
Autoimmune hepatitis.
That's right. Excellent. Autoimmune hepatitis. In autoimmune hepatitis, remember another differentiating point. In autoimmune hepatitis, ALP will be normal or mildly raised, while in primary sclerosing and in primary biliary they will be mildly raised, because anything that leads to obstruction of the flow of the bile, it will leads and increase ALP, alkaline phosphatase. Alkaline phosphatase is basically an enzyme that is released by the biliary channels. The channels which are transporting bile is ALP. So in autoimmune hepatitis, ALP is normal or mildly raised, while in primary sclerosing cholangitis and primary biliary cirrhosis, it is markedly raised. History of heavy alcohol consumption, this one, and this is an easy one. Signs of liver disease. What is the diagnosis?
Liver cirrhosis.
Yes, liver cirrhosis due to alcohol or alcoholic liver disease. Again, another scenario from palliative care chapter. An elderly with multiple liver metastases secondary to colon cancer, drowsy, cachxic, abdominal pain, jaundice, ascites, and lower limb edema, low urine output, high ELP, high bilirubin, low albumin. A patient who present to you with ascites and low albumin, the most appropriate treatment will be albumin infusion. Ascites is secondary to liver cirrhosis, in which albumin is normal. We can also give spironolactone, potassium sparing diuretics. So remember this point as well. Ascites in liver cirrhosis can be managed by potassium sparing diuretics. Celiac disease is already done. Now, a scenario which is sometimes asked in the Pleb 1 exam, and 50-year-old male, a known case of celiac disease since childhood, recently it developed diarrhea and weight loss. What are the complications of celiac disease? Can someone tell me? The complication of celiac disease. Anyone? What are the complications of celiac disease?
It's
Identify
anemia along with T cell lymphoma, maybe.
Yes, T-cell lymphoma, anemia.
growth
One more
failure,
complication.
then diarrhea, chronic diarrhea, then
Osteoporosis.
osteoporosis.
Yes, osteoporosis also in a complication.
Yeah,
Chronic
vitamin
diarrhea
A,
and
vitamin A, D, E, K deficiency. So there will be
yes,
a
yes.
failure to thrive. Yeah, there's nerve function is also every function actually. And this anemia is a resistant anemia. How much iron you give, the child will or the person will not improve until you free the diet.
Yes, that's right. So here in this scenario, as the person has recently developed diarrhea and weight loss, in known case of celiac disease, though he was on a gluten-free diet, but still he developed diarrhea and weight loss. So most probably, the complication of celiac disease is intestinal lymphoma in this scenario. Treatment of acute cholecystitis we have already discussed. Now, sudden onset of severe abdominal pain develops severe generalized abdominal pain and tenderness in looking patients with shallow and rapid breathing, abdominal tenderness and guarding. Erect X-ray shows free air under diaphragm. What is your diagnosis? Sudden onset of abdominal pain and tenderness in an ill-looking patient. X-ray erect shows air under diaphragm. Can anyone tell me the diagnosis in this case?
Paralytic ileus.
Paralytic ileus. Anyone else?
intestinal perforation.
Acute
Intestinal
appendicitis.
perforation.
Yeah, peptic ulcer perforation as well.
In acute appendicitis, there will be right iliac fossa pain. This is generalized abdominal pain with tenderness and guarding. It is basically a case of peritonitis, which is due to intestinal perforation. Normally, let me show you the X-ray. You can see this X-ray. Normally, there is this air under diaphragm. This is diaphragm. This one. And this is air under diaphragm. This is normal on the left side. But if there is air under diaphragm on the right side as well, then it is intestinal perforation. And the most common cause of intestinal perforation in UK is perforated peptic ulcers. While in developing countries like Pakistan, India, intestinal TB or typhoid fever can also lead to intestinal perforation. So whenever someone presents to you with gas under diaphragm, then it is most probably perforated peptic ulcers. The treatment for perforated peptic ulcer is urgent surgery or to correct perforation. It is basically a question from general surgery, but still we have discussed it here. Now, what is the management of H. pylori infection? How we are going to manage the H. pylori infection? Let's just focus on this diagram. Remember that someone present to you with dyspepsia and the patient age is less than 55 years old. In above 55 years, a patient who is above 55 years and present to you with dyspepsia and weight loss, then the first investigation that you will do is endoscopy to rule out esophageal cancer. But a patient with dyspepsia and his age is less than 55 years of, then the first thing that you will do is to advise lifestyle modification, plus you will prescribe antacids. But if the patient does not improve after lifestyle modification and antacids, then you will perform H. pylori serum antibody test. So a patient less than 55 years of age present to you with dyspepsia, the first thing that you will do is to advise him lifestyle modification and prescribe him some antacids. But if his condition not improve after lifestyle modification and antacids, you will perform H. pylori antibody test. And if H. pylori serum antibody test is positive, then you will perform H. pylori eradication therapy. What is H. pylori eradication therapy? The name is triple therapy. 3 drugs are used for H. pylori eradication: proton pump inhibitors such as omeprazole or esomeprazole, plus amoxicillin, plus clarithromycin. These drugs are used for 2 weeks. The dose of proton pump inhibitor is 20 milligram BID for 14 days. Amoxicillin is 1 gram BID for 14 days, and clarithromycin is 500 milligram for 14 days. Now, patient H. pylori antibody test was positive and you prescribed triple therapy. Now the patient has completed the treatment. Now you want to know that if the H. pylori is eradicated or not. Remember that to confirm the eradication, you cannot perform the serum antibody test. You will perform the urea breath test to confirm eradication after treatment. So a patient presented to us with dyspepsia, his age was less than 55 years. We advised him lifestyle modification and antacid, but his condition did not improve. After weeks of treatment with antacid and lifestyle modification, then we performed antibody test, H. pylori, which was positive. So we give him eradication therapy and called him after 4 weeks. If with eradication therapy the patient condition is improved, then no further action is needed. But if the patient condition is not improved, it means either the H. pylori is not eradicated, or either there is some other problem. So we will confirm the H. pylori eradication by urea breath test, carbon 13 urea breath test. If it's positive, then we will again prescribe him triple therapy to eradicate H. pylori. But if the patient's symptoms did not improve after the treatment and his urea breath test is also negative, that means H. pylori is eradicated, but there is some other problem in his enteric tract. So we will perform upper GI endoscopy to rule out the other causes of dyspepsia or indigestion, such as esophageal cancer, esophageal stricture, or any other condition. What if someone H. pylori serum antibody test is negative? If H. pylori serum antibody test is negative, then we do not need to give eradication therapy. We will just prescribe him PPI or H2 blockers such as ranitidine or famotidine or omeprazole or esomeprazole for 4 weeks and then review. If patient improved, then no action is needed, and if patient did not improve, then again we will perform upper GI endoscopy. So in short, a short summary of this picture is that first of all, you will need to treat dyspepsia in patient who are less than 55-year-old with just antacids. But if with antacids the patient condition does not improve, then the first test that you will need to perform is H. pylori serum antibody test. If H. pylori serum antibody test is positive, then you will give him triple eradication therapy. And even after giving triple eradication therapy, the patient condition does not improve, then you will perform urea breath test. If it's positive, you will again give him eradication therapy. If it's negative, then you will perform endoscopy. While in a patient of dyspepsia who is above 55-year-old, the first investigation that you need to perform is endoscopy to rule out any malignancy. Is it clear up to this point? Or does anyone want to ask any question? Any question, guys?
No, it's clear.
Note 55-year or above with dyspepsia and weight loss, urgent upper GI endoscopy to exclude esophageal or gastric cancer. Now, our next topic is Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. You will suspect Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Ulcers at various and unusual sites that are resistant to treatment. Multiple ulcers at unusual sites. What are the unusual sites for ulcers? The unusual sites for ulcer is esophagus, distal duodenum, and jejunum. Commonly the ulcers occur in the stomach. So if there are multiple ulcers in esophagus, distal duodenum, or jejunum, distal duodenum or jejunum are the areas where there is no acid. So normally the ulcer does not occur in these areas. But in Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, there is a gastrin-secreting tumor. Gastrin stimulates the parietal cells of the stomach to release hydrochloric acids. So the concentration of hydrochloric acid is increased in Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. That's why excessive acid will lead or result in the formation of multiple ulcers, even beyond the stomach, such as duodenum or jejunum. So when you will suspect Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, someone with multiple ulcers on endoscopy or ulcers that are resistant to treatment, and as it's a genetic disease, someone with a family history of peptic ulcer disease in the scenario, then you will suspect Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. How we are going to diagnose? Remember that another way in which this question can be asked in the exam is multiple ulcers with diarrhea. Excessive hydrochloric acid that is released by the stomach can also cause diarrhea. So ulcers plus diarrhea, your diagnosis will be Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. How will we diagnose Zollinger-Ellison syndrome? Fasting gastrin level or secretin stimulation test is performed for the diagnosis of Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. And as it's a gastrinoma, so the treatment is usually surgery. A tumor of gastrin secreting cells. So surgical resection is done as a treatment of Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. But remember that it can recur after surgery. Now let's read an example scenario. Can someone
Does
read?
that happen in the pancreas as well? So these gastrinomas, they develop in pancreas as well?
Yes, gastrin secreting tumor can be found in pancreas as well.
Okay.
But gastrin, the hormone that is released by these gastrinomas, they act on the parietal cell of the stomach. They can be found anywhere though.
So basically, the secretion happens in the stomach
The stomach, yes,
or
because in the
anywhere in the
parietal cell,
duodenum as well.
the parietal cell in the stomach are basically responsible for the production of hydrochloric acid.
Right.
But that acid can be normally the acid that is coming from the stomach is neutralized in the duodenum by the pancreatic juices, which contain bicarbonate ions. But in gastrinomas or Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, as there is excessive acid, so it cannot be neutralized in the duodenum. That's why it can result in the formation of ulcers in the duodenum or in the jejunum.
Okay. Thank you.
Can someone read this example scenario at the bottom of the page? Dr. Joanna, can you read it?
A patient has recently received a full course for H. pylori eradication. He now attends with burning retrosternal pain for a few days. Endoscopy is done and it shows multiple ulcers in the lower esophagus, stomach, and duodenum. What should be done next regarding the investigation?
So what is the answer for this question? What should be done next regarding the investigation? This is a case of Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. because on endoscopy there are multiple ulcers in unusual places such as esophagus and duodenum. What is the next investigation that you will perform in this case? Anyone?
Gastrin level, fasting gastrin level.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Excellent. Remember that in this scenario, there was a distractor. A patient has recently received a full course of H. pylori eradication, but he still has retrosternal burning and pain. So even after H. pylori eradication, the patient's symptoms is not subsided. So to confirm H. pylori eradication, which test is performed? Urea breath test. But this is the this is not the case here because this is a case of Zollinger-Ellison syndrome.
But in the other scenario, shouldn't it be like they should go for C13 rather than doing the endoscopy straight away? I mean, if they have done endoscopy and it has shown the multiple ulcers, so they want to pick us the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. But in their question, shouldn't it be like they're doing it C13
If
before
this question,
endoscopy?
yes, you are right. If this question was asked up till this point, the
Mm-hmm.
patient recently received a full course of H. pylori eradication. He now attends with burning retrosternal pain for a few days. Then you would have selected C13 urea breath test before going
Yeah.
for endoscopy
Okay.
to confirm H. pylori eradication. Because if urea blood test is still positive, then it means H. pylori is not eradicated and you need to repeat the triple therapy.